what are some of the unique nuances with Chicago buildings, kind of compared to other cities that you think there is?
Well, we had our own Chicago building code that was very strict, right? We've had fires, we've had a lot of tragedies in the city. And so our code reflected that. We weren't in line with the international codes in many areas, though we had tried over the years to do some, we weren't. And so when people would come and build in Chicago, they'd have to study our code, and it wasn't even in the same place, like different requirements and so it made it harder for people globally to invest, because it was harder for them to figure out what we needed, what it would cost based on our code and so forth. So by making our code more in alignment, while still keeping, some of the things that we need here in Chicago for our density, but at least it's laid out the same. And in global investors or people from the outside can feel more comfortable coming here to build and invest. I think that was important. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is the rehab code, is rehabilitation of existing buildings, right? So, I spent a lot of years in housing court dealing with buildings that needed to be rehabilitated, that were dangerous, often had to be vacated. We had a lot of vacant buildings. And it was really expensive to rehab these buildings, because the way that our code used to be is once you spent a certain amount of money or did something, then you would automatically trigger the new construction code, which asks for all kinds of things. And there's no way that these buildings could comply. And so people would just throw their hands up in the air and walk away. So in the beginning of my tenure, I had met with the Urban Land Institute and others, and they were saying, we have to figure out a way to save these buildings. So at first I thought we could just work on the rehab code or do a few things like that. But I came to realize that we really needed the overhaul. And so now we have a rehab code that factors in, the type of building it is and what's there, and then makes it better so that it can be utilized again. And so that's very important for the preservation of existing buildings, which is really the most sustainable way to go forward anyway, right? You don't want to demolish and rebuild if you can rehab.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that was another big one.